Hey, what's going on? Okay, have a seat. Let's work through it. Sure, what's on your mind? Have I been canceled before? Yeah, I have. Well, the cause on the surface was disagreement, but as things unfolded, it was further discovered what the disagreement was based on. And oftentimes, the cause is stopped at that term, but sometimes there are far more underlying elements to it. I was being rushed by a group of my peers back then to participate in an activity they wanted to do. But before I chose to accept, I wanted to investigate all factors behind it. They became very uncomfortable by that and became more verbally aggressive and demanding. They even indirectly threatened my own reputation, claiming I would get hate for disagreeing. Well, after some time of back and forth discussion, they finally admitted they were trying to get me to agree with them to go to a party and join in on some certain activities. I disagreed with those motives and respectfully declined, wishing them well. They started guilt-tripping me and accidentally spilled all the details of them actually targeting a particular person within that activity. I also blew the whistle and warned the target, and their whole plan was busted as the target opted out of the party. Would you like to know the reason they wanted to attack this person? While I did not like it either, their target was a bit narcissistic. But even so, that was no justification for that individual to be attacked. See, at this point, my peers were trying to take matters of the issue into their own hands and commit very heinous acts. It was later leaked that I blew the whistle, and I was then labeled a traitor by my peers. Yep, I was labeled a traitor for doing the right thing. The target and their friends stood up for me, though. And funny thing about that, the target actually became less narcissistic over time as we hung out. Now, I don't take any credit for that. It was that person's sole choice to change. So as the word spread that I blew the whistle, I later discovered that the bystanders were only told that I blew the whistle on their disciplinary plan. They were never shared the actual plan of violating the target, and the folks at the party kept their mouths shut out of fear. I asked bystanders if they ever asked what the disciplinary action was and whether or not they cared based on emotional response related to the target's narcissistic nature back then. Most of them declined to answer. Yeah, that is ridiculous. You do the right thing and some people still don't like it. To which it's usually the folks whom righteousness destroys their agenda. Eventually, the original culprits confronted me and asked why I snitched. I corrected them and asked them why they thought I blew the whistle. Their answer addressed how I ruined their ability to gain justice. Now, of course, both you and I know that in no way was that a form of justice, but in their emotionally invested opinion, their course of action was perceived as justice, even though it was false. But in reality, we know it was nothing more than just revenge. They were just trying to get their way, and they were willing to demonize anyone that dared to tell them otherwise. Oh, really? That happened to you? What was it about? I see. Bandwagon hustling, huh? Yeah, there's some folk out there who do that. How'd that work out for them? So let me get this right. At your school, there was a finals sports game with the varsity sports team. You explained you were unable to make it due to the job that you have. They wanted you to bolt away from your job just to attend their event when your request for time off was denied anyway, and they petitioned for you to be canceled, to which the other students agreed without proper perspective. I would not even worry about that. Those folks are just about getting their way and gaining trends. It's not like they would pay for the wages you would lose at work. Did anyone stand up for you? Ah, so your friends were there and they're not attending now out of protest for the varsity's actions. Very nice. Ooh, that That's even better. The fact that the other students, as they found out the real reason behind the cancellation, that they themselves also joined in on the boycott. Looks like that old operation they tried to pull was a big fail. Did the varsity team ever apologize? Figures they wouldn't. Folks trying to cancel others ended up canceling themselves out. In both your case and mine, folks just wanted us to do what they wanted. And since we refused, they assumed that we were automatically against them and possessed some type of hatred toward them, so they thought that they could just make our lives a living nightmare. Sad scenario indeed, but not much sympathy either. Sounds like those folks were used to getting their way and people just bowing to their demands simply because they possess some type of influential weight. But as they found out, misuse of that influence over time can develop discredit. Oh well. Great question. There are different answers, though. The common answer is greed. For some, it can be just misguidance. But even then, a good portion of them know what they are doing and the risks involved. But they choose to commit the act anyway, operating under the belief at that moment that the alleged benefits outweigh the liabilities. Some of them even believe that they found ways around all of the liabilities, but they fail to consider the liabilities they have not yet even been introduced to. And some of them they just plain disregarded. Want to know one of those liabilities they tend to disregard? Underestimating their target or opponent. Yep. And guess what else? The main opponent I'm talking about is not really their target, though they are part of the scenario. Guess who the opponent is? The primary opponent they were going against is karma. In your case, you never did anything wrong to start, and you never retaliated against the varsity team. And thanks to your friends and bystanders who were disciplined enough, they took action in your defense, and the team was not expecting that. In my situation, I took some form of action to help someone, and even though it did not look like that individual deserved to be helped, the planned acts toward the target did not match the severity of their misconduct. I don't know all the details what happened between the two of them, but still not justifiable. If anything, they ought to be thankful someone did blow the whistle and all the target did was skip the party. You know where it could have gone otherwise, especially in these times. They could have easily just closed all communications from the target and moved on. And if the target was actually doing things to harass or even stalk them, they could have got a restraining order in one way or another. Another issue of theirs is they did not like to see their target continuing to prosper despite their former narcissism. But that's just something they would have been better off getting over. In incidents like that, it's not our job to discipline others, and there are strict limits on self-defense. Well, one of them did apologize years later. According to them, they came to realize how foolish they were back then. They also shared with me that one of the others actually ended up in prison for another issue, but the same general scenario. Bottom line, that individual was more concerned about revenge rather than actual justice. Now you want to try patching up things with the varsity, huh? Well, at this juncture, it doesn't sound like they want to reconcile. But if they ever do, you remember the common procedure thereof. They apologize, they commit to behavioral correction, and they maintain consistency thereof. You are completely innocent, and there is nothing you need to apologize for. If there was one other lesson out of this whole issue, it would be this. Sometimes it's not about who you know or even who knows you. The basic principle before who knows who is the very concept of right and wrong. Your actions will inform others around you about you, good or bad. And that's exactly what happened to the folks on the varsity team. Their bad behavior took precedence over who knew them and who they knew. Hey, anytime. Anything else on your mind? Need some help on mastering your music track, huh? All right, let's take a look at it.